For the victims of sex assault, the experience can mean wounds that will never heal. To know that attackers have not been brought to justice can only add to the tragedy. A Hawaii task force is now in place, made up of federal and state agents to capture sex crime fugitives who have fled to Hawaii to avoid prosecution. The task force's other mission: to locate and arrest anyone failing to register as a sex offender, as required by law. The task force operates under the Adam Walsh Act, federal legislation named for the young sex crime and murder victim who was the son of John Walsh, host of America's Most Wanted. That program began as a response to Adam's tragic death and as a way to track offenders who may try to relocate, hide from authorities, and strike again. United States Attorney Florence Nakakuni oversees operation of the task force in Hawaii.
Enforcement of the Adam Walsh Act is one of the highest priorities for the Department of Justice and for my office. These are victims of sex crimes, and they are scarred for life. These are serious offenses against some of our most vulnerable victims, and so it's important that we enforce the Adam Walsh Act, and we intend to do so.
Nolan Sasaki is a U.S. Marshal Senior Inspector with the Adam Walsh Task Force in Hawaii.
Many times when the sex offenders are targeting juveniles, when they move into a new area, they will create opportunities for themselves to be around children. For instance, they'll befriend the single mother who's down the hallway who needs childcare with latchkey children. She's juggling a job and she has a social life that she wants to maintain or start. They'll be the friendly neighbor who will volunteer to watch them after school, or when she's going out or at work. They'll volunteer to be the Cub Scout leader or the youth minister, or organizations like that would give them the opportunity to be around kids in a setting that would create an environment where they could they call it groom these kids, and that's just the way they operate.
Between 60 and 70% of sex offenders know their victims or are family friends. More than 90% of offenders are men. There are 3,500 registered sex offenders throughout the islands. 580 more have failed to register as the law requires. Their whereabouts unknown. California has 104,000 registered sex offenders. Another 16,000 are unregistered and unaccounted for. Authorities here are concerned with potentially dangerous sex offenders just a 5-hour plane ride away.
If a sex offender is convicted in one state and he moves to another state, and I say he because most sex offenders are men, if he fails to register in that new state, then he can be prosecuted federally, regardless of whether the underlying crime was a federal conviction or a state one. So the laws made it more difficult for sex offenders to hide or to fall off the radar by moving to another state. So the short answer is, this is what the Adam Walsh Task Force here in Hawaii does. It pursues leads that it receives from other states, other jurisdictions, on sex offenders who are believed to be here in Hawaii. And the task force moves very quickly.
With the permission of the Justice Department, we accompanied the task force on its core mission: to follow leads in the search for sex crime fugitives. By agreement, we were restricted from entering private property on these raids. On this day, the task force follows a tip to a house in Waimanalo looking for Pete Leon Smith, a sex offender here from California with narcotics and burglary convictions. Smith has violated his parole and come to Hawaii to hide. A dozen agents surround the house and find Smith viewing pornography on his bedroom computer. They take him into custody without incident. Neighbors told the task force they had been concerned for the safety of a 14-year-old girl living at the residence.
Have you ever registered in California?
State Sheriff Jim Barnes is a member of the Adam Walsh Task Force.
it's a feeling of relief knowing that, you know, we've caught somebody and we stopped them for the time being. You know, it's up to the courts to keep them in jail, but the feeling is too is, you know, you're looking at them and you're trying to figure out, you know, what makes this guy do this type of crime.
In an example of how the task force works nationwide, U.S. Marshals in Texas receive a tip that Kelso Rodriguez Huerta, an illegal alien wanted for aggravated sex assault of a child under the age of 14, is living in Oahu's Makiki area. The Texas Marshals contact their counterparts here, and Hawaii agents arrest him at his apartment in an early morning raid.
U.S. Marshal's Office. Kelso, back up. Let me see your hands. Back up. Down on the ground. Down on the ground. Down on the ground. Like I said, you have a warrant out of Texas for sex assault. So you're gonna be sent, you'll go to court over here because you'll be extradited back to Texas.
Rodriguez Huerta's wife, also in the apartment at the time of the raid, said she was completely unaware of his past. For several years, he had been working around Honolulu as a handyman doing odd jobs.
We've potentially saved, you know, other victims from him. I mean, there's more predators out there, but I mean, it's, you know, one at a time. But, you know, we've stopped him from committing any other crimes.
When we return, another convicted and unregistered sex offender is captured. This time, just steps from a high school and hundreds of potential victims. Every afternoon that McKinley High School is in session, hundreds of teenage girls and boys walk to and from campus. In the afternoon, some wait for buses or other rides home. Many walked right past the apartment entrance of convicted sex crime fugitive Stephen Gregory Smith. Where did Smith live? Less than 200 yards from the McKinley High School campus. Smith was convicted of sex abuse in Oregon and failed to show up in court for sentencing. Earlier, he had been convicted of a sex crime in Texas, indecency with a child by contact. When captured by the Hawaii Task Force, Smith was working near his apartment as a janitor.
It's the police. Stephen, open the door. We've got a warrant for your arrest.
Open the door, it's the police.
Agents had to use a battering ram to knock down the barricaded door and take Smith into custody.
Door's going down. Police at the ward. Police at the ward. Don't resist. Stop resisting. They got him. Here. Check the bathroom, see if it's clear. Is anybody else in here? All right. Keep your legs on.
Pat him down. Pat him down. Okay.
Any injuries? Done any medication?
Yeah, I think we're
The internet is also part of our story. It has a power that can be almost magical, but there is a price to pay that didn't exist before.
Every day, our kids are on the internet to do their homework, to listen to music, watch videos, buy and sell things, and communicate with their friends and family via the social networks. And it's the new playground, and it's available 24/7. And it wasn't too long ago when parents' main media concern was a television. Now it's the internet. And as a federal prosecutor, I can tell you that notwithstanding all the good things about the internet, it is just another way for criminals to commit crimes.
But while the internet should be used with caution, its power can also be a tool to combat sexual predators by educating parents and those at risk. For helpful information, log on, type in sexual predators, and begin your search. In addition to monitoring internet use, What else can be done to protect against sex assault? For the young, parents need to know where their children are at all times. Be alert to teenagers or adults paying an unusual amount of attention to your children or acting inappropriately toward them. Teach your children that no one should approach them or touch them in a way that makes them feel uncomfortable. If someone does, they should tell you immediately. Shane Souza is a state sheriff and an agent with the Adam Walsh Task Force.
I think a lot of people, they know, these individuals are sex offenders, but they don't get to see the whole history of them, the background, and exactly what took place during the crime. And when you see that part of it, yeah, I can't even let my kids go to the bathroom in the mall without, being right by the stall door, I'm just so worried about it, everywhere they go. Even in school, I got a tendency to look twice at the teachers and, the maintenance people, just to see, kind of body language they have. And everywhere, yeah, it affects me in all aspects of my life.
For more information, please go to websites such as the Drew Shadeen National Sex Offender Public website at nsopw.gov and stopitnow.org. The commitment of the task force agents is unquestioned as the effort continues to take sex offenders off Hawaii's streets.
They always tell you can't take it personal, but it's the safety of the children, and me being a father, me being a brother, I just couldn't, I don't know, I just can't see, allowing people to do that. So for me, it's kind of, I do take it personal. It's for the safety of the children, the safety of, the people. People like that need to be put away.
As for the 3 captured sex offenders you've seen tonight, Kelso Rodriguez Huerta is in custody in Texas, awaiting trial for his charge of aggravated sex assault of a child under the age of 14. Stephen Gregory Smith, the convicted sex offender in 2 states, was flown back to Oregon after his capture here. He served 180 days and is now out of jail on probation. Pete Leon Smith was extradited to California and served 3 months. Just 3 days after his release, Smith failed to report to parole authorities. A warrant is out for his arrest. Smith's whereabouts are unknown. Thank you for joining us. I'm Matt Levi. Good night.